Hi, everyone. This is Prof. Brinks, and in this video, I'm going to be giving a full presentation on uh, what is DevOps. Okay, because uh, it's important that people understand what is DevOps and then uh, make up their mind to study it. Okay, and yeah, so. Um, I've been working as a DevOps engineer for the past more than 6 years now, and we started Lion to Academy in 2022, and I'm DevOps instructor here at Lion Tech Academy. And yeah, so if you're thinking about you know taking a training, picking up a career in tech, DevOps is one of uh, those tech fields that you should consider. One, because it cut across almost everything in tech. It cuts across security, also cut across cloud computing, especially DevOps, AWS, Azure, and GCP. So I have a presentation that I'm going to share. Okay. And so let's talk about what is DevOps. Okay. So first of all, DevOps is a software engineering culture and practices that aims at unifying software development, dev, and software operations ops. Okay, let's stop there and define a few things. Software, right? Zoom is a software. Facebook is a software. Okay. TikTok is a software. MTN mobile money is a software. If you look at your phone, all the apps that you have on your phone, okay, are software. So because it's important to break this down, okay, and softwares are, I would say, a critical element of every business, right? If you go to the bank, for example, the bank has its banking software. If they have a mobile app application, it's because that application is generating revenue for the bank, right? I don't think there's any bank now that is serious that doesn't have some software, that they're using to manage their operations, right? That's the first thing to define software. And then we move into breaking down DevOps. Okay. Dev is development. Development just means creation. Okay. So let's say I want to create an app that'll be used in Africa and is going to be used by city councils in Africa to manage waste, right? So I have the idea, and then that idea needs to be developed, right? It needs to be created. So dev, the dev aspect of DevOps is where the application is actually created. Professionals we call developers, right? And I'm sure you know developers like Python developers, Java developers. Okay, all right. These are developers, those who have gone to school to learn coding. Okay, very important. Ops. When they code, this application needs to be delivered to the market, to end users. Therefore, uh, the team that is responsible for that is operations, right? So the day-to-day operations of the application is managed by ops, not developers. Developers code once, then what? We manage. Like let's say we take the case of a restaurant, right? the cook, okay, prepares the meal. But then what? How the meals gets delivered to the customers, it's no longer their business. It's no longer their business. So think about a restaurant that has an app. So customers place their orders via the app. The cook prepares the food. Everything that has to do with taking the food from the kitchen, handing it over to the driver, right, until it gets delivered to the customer is operations. So DevOps is for simply looking at the development and the operations of application. This operation includes, deploying, securing, scaling, what again, monitoring and maintaining. Okay, we'll talk about that, but it's important that you understand where we are driving. So DevOps is a software engineering culture and practice that aims at unifying software development and software operations. What does this mean? So DevOps is a culture, it's a practice. So if you work as a DevOps engineer, you're going to what? You're going to have to practice a culture. That culture, I'll tell you, is a culture of collaboration. We are going to talk about DevOps practices. And this should already let you know. Okay, let me ask you a question. If I invite you for a soccer practice, will you practice soccer with your hands in your pocket? The answer is no, right? If I invited you for, let's say, okay, a choir practice, right? You are coming to practice. So it's an action. That's why you cannot become a good DevOps engineer with your hands in your pockets, right? You need to hands-on, okay? So practice. We'll talk about this in details in this particular video, okay? Practice of automation, right? You have to practice Linux commands. You have to practice versions control. You have to practice build automation, test automation, CI/CD automation, infrastructure automation, configuration management in what automation and monitoring in automation. That is DevOps for you. Okay. Very important again. DevOps aims at what? Shorter development cycles, increased deployment frequency, and more dependable releases in close alignment with business objectives. So I work for a company at the moment, Post Media, and I also work for a company, Polar. The company is based in Manitoba. What we do is that we support their lottery systems. So if you're in America and let's say you go to the stores and you buy a lottery, you have to have an app on your phone where you log in the ticket and everything. So what we are supporting the developers building that application, right? And that lottery business needs that application because that is how, okay, people buy tickets and they have to play. So it's a lot of operations happening in the back end. So every 2 weeks we need to update. Okay, there is a result of the lottery, right? You need to release that. So that is called deployment, right? And releases frequent. You want this to be frequent. And so DevOps make this possible because of one thing, right? Automation. Okay? Because once we are able to automate, it just means that now we can update the application frequently, sometimes multiple times a week, multiple times a day, or do what we call emergency releases when the situation arises and there is need for an automation, okay, release. So DevOps is a culture, practices. Okay, you can't talk DevOps without talking about the practices. So we are going to talk about the practices, okay? Very, very important. So I will explain this, okay? So DevOps is not tools, but tools are essential to success in DevOps. So we are going to understand the DevOps tools. And the way I always tell my students and mentees is think about tools like if you walk into a mechanic shop to repair a car, what do you see there? You see tools, right? And the tools have specific purposes, okay? If you want to inflate your tire, there's a tool for that. If you want to replace a tire, there is a tool, and they are processed the same thing with DevOps, right? Uh, DevOps has its tools, and those are the tools that we are going to be studying. So now if you know what is DevOps, and you know the DevOps tools, you can easily implement DevOps practices, okay? So DevOps is first a culture of collaboration between developers and operations people. Okay. So there's that, for every software development project, you have software developers. We call them dev. But developers are what we're going to be creating. They are bringing ideas into life. That's what they do. Okay. This culture has what given rise to a set of practices. So DevOps is a grassroots movement by practitioners for practitioners. So when you hear the keyword practitioners, it just means that you are going to be practicing throughout your DevOps training at Lion Tech. So this is just to, uh, get your mind ready, okay? This one important. Okay, not important as well. So let me give you a brief story about before DevOps, because it's good to understand. DevOps is a new methodology that fosters what the culture of collaboration between dev and ops. That means that before DevOps came, there used to be, there used to be this silo, like what we call silo just means that there used to be this incommunicado, lack of collaboration between development and operations. So think about it this way, right? You have a cook in a restaurant. He or she cooks the food. There is a team that tests the food, and there is a driver who need to deliver the food. But these three individuals are not communicating. So you get done, and then you notify the tester come and take the food to test, and then the driver delivers. And then so there is that slow movement. But what if you put all these individuals in a WhatsApp group? That what? That is a DevOps culture. It means that what? The cook can communicate with the tester. The tester is what is communicating with, with operations, with the bankers, with everybody in the project. They're working together, right? So there is no silo, there is no barrier to communication. There is that collaboration. So DevOps is all about collaboration. That's why in this course we have begun setting up, collaboration groups, right, around the world. Wherever our students are, there is a collaboration group, and it's important to collaborate because that's what DevOps is. Okay. So before there used to be that silo, with DevOps, Dev and Ops work together and share the same goals. Now, what is the advantage? Speed and stability. Deployment and operations achieve what? We are able to achieve the deployment, development and operations with speed and stability. Why? Because developers and operations are working together. They have the same goal, they know what they are doing, and just make things go easy. So if you want to look at this, So this is what used to happen, okay? So devs write code, throw it over the wall to QA, code bounce back and forth between what? Dev and QA as QA discovers problems and dev fix them. Finally, what is ready for production. So this is what used to happen. And let me just quote this in a very let's make it practical because I like to contextualize it and bring it up. Let's say you are running a building project and you're putting together a team, okay? Let's say it's a hotel, for example, 15-story building hotel you want to build. So, of course, what you bring the builders, and let's call the builders in this case the developers, because what they are the guys building the building, right? But you also have city inspectors. Let's say you're building this particular project in Lagos, but the inspector is based in Port Harcourt, right? So you're done with the foundation, take a picture, and what? Write an email to the inspector, which in this case, what is QA, right? It's QA. So the inspector has to plan to travel to Lagos to come and inspect the hotel, right? Comes in and say, oh, you know what? The sand, the texture of the sand is not good. That rot needs to be replaced. Okay, the foundation is not good. We have to redo it again. This is what happens, okay, in actual application development because you have QA. QA also called testers, right? So there's always that back and forth, okay? So what happens? The team now has to go ahead and redo everything. Firstly, think about the stress of that in a moment. Now, what if the tester was on site, right? You see that? So what? Let's say, you know what? Okay, guy, you know what? Like, let's uh let's cut the crap. Okay, leave Port Harcourt if you're going to work on this project. What? Come and leave. Work with the team on site. So as they are going to buy the rod, you are going with them to buy the rod. As the rod comes on site, before they start using you inspect them as opposed to wait until the rod has been, integrated in the building project before you come and say, oh, no, what that rod needs to be changed. Think about it. Which one is better? Have the tester on site or have the tester comes once a month or once in 3 months to come and check, right? So this is what used to happen before DevOps came in the picture. There used to be that silos, okay? That silos like that. But with DevOps, okay, we have our developer, a tester, and operations. Operations is a DevOps engineer. Right? They are all working together. So if operations sees an issue in production, I can talk to Dave. Hey, Dave, you know what? It looks like our payment method is failing, right? Dave say, okay, don't worry. You know what? Yeah, I'm on it. Take a look, okay? Because what Dave also can see the message, right? Work on it, okay? Dave say, okay, I'm done. John, I'm done fixing what the payment issue. John, can you test if it's going to work in production? John's what? Yeah, Dave, thank you so much. I'm on it, right? John runs a test. Everything is good. Okay, Elvis, testing is good as well. Let's fix the issue in production. Bam. So within 2 hours, that issue in production is resolved. This is what DevOps bring in the picture. When Dev and Ops collaborate, that's why we say that DevOps is a culture. And that culture gives rise to a set of practices. Okay, great. So we call that silos, okay? So, and then of course there was always, that back and forth, blame, okay, and all of that. Okay. So, but with DevOps, you see that now with DevOps, okay, developers write the code, QA run the test, and of course, what production. So, dev write code, code commit triggers what automated build, integration, and test. QA can get their hands on it almost immediately. Once it's ready, kick off and automated what? Deployment to production. So this is where most companies want to be. They want the developer, the tester, the QA team, and operations all working together. And this is what you are going to learn, right? Here, we see a couple of terms here, right? Automated build, integration, automated test. We are going to, this is what makes you a DevOps engineer, okay? Your ability to automate processes. That's what makes you a DevOps engineer, okay? So you are going to what, be able to integrate something like this. That's it, right? This is why now it becomes easier for us to fix issues in production with this what in the speed of light within hours. It's fixed and deployed. Why? Because we have these teams working together and we also have automation in place. Okay, makes sense, right? So with DevOps, okay, with DevOps, oh sorry, right? So with DevOps, the latest deployment broke something in production. Fortunately, what automated monitoring notified the team immediately. The team does a rollback by deploying what the previous working version, fixing the problem quickly. An hour later, Dev was able to deploy a fixed version of the new code. Okay, I know it's getting a little bit complicated, but let me break this down. So let's say, for example, you wake up in the morning and your MTN mobile money app, or let's just say your banking notification service is not working. So you send money and you don't get notifications, right? Now, the bank tech team or the development team, the DevOps team, what needs to fix that issue. So because they are working together, now how are they even able to be aware of that, right? So when we deploy application, we have to what? We have to set up monitoring, and this is so important, okay? So we have to build, integrate, test, deploy, and monitor, right? You monitor because it's important. We'll talk about that. So what went right? Okay, automated. Automation leads to what? To consistency, building, testing, deployment happens the same way every time. Why? Because we automate. Okay. Dev and ops work together to build a robust way of changing code quickly and reliably. Both dev and ops work together to prioritize both speed of delivery and stability, right? So this is DevOps. These are the advantages of Dev. That's why if you look at majority of DevOps job description, then you understand what I am talking about, right? So now let's talk about DevOps practices. So this is saying that what are we going to be learning in this program? Okay. Build automation. See that? Build automation. What this means is that we want to be able to build the application automatically. So that process is called build automation. Okay. Preparing what? Preparing code for deployment to an environment. Okay. Automation of the process of what? Preparing code for deployment to a live environment. Depending on what language I use, code needs to be compiled, linted, minified, transformed, tested. Build automation means what? Taking these steps and doing them in a consistent, automated way using a script or a tool. These tools, the tools of build automation, what often differ depending on what programming languages and frameworks I use, but they have one thing in common: automation. Yes. So week 3 in this program, we are going to start building automation, like build automation. Okay. Not week, I mean month 3, right? Because when the program starts, we want to build your confidence. So we start with Linux. Though you understand that we are not going to see Linux here, but it's fundamental. Okay. So build automation as the developers write the source code that be transformed. So it's like you go to the market and you buy ginger, garlic, right? You want to cook this is stew. Okay. You buy all the spices. But now what? These spices need to be blended. It needs to be transformed. You put everything in a blender and you press a button. Bang, right? It blends everything automatically. That's an example of automation. We could also just, grind, right? Pound. That's manual, okay? But yeah, so build automation what is the first practice that you are going to implement as a DevOps engineer. This is a must, obtain skill. Okay, don't worry about that. So why do build automation? Fast automation what? Handles tasks that would otherwise need to be done manually. It brings in consistent, repeatable, portable, and reliable benefits. Okay, when we build automatically, right? First is consistent. It's just like having a blender, right? So you blend the same way all the time. Once you configure the settings, it's the same all the time, right? So your ginger is blended yesterday, the same way it's going to blend today and tomorrow. Because you're using a tool. The tool there is the blender. So we are going to learn about what are the DevOps tools that will help us to achieve build automation. First practice. Abi? Great. Okay. The next practice is continuous integration. But the practice of frequently merging code changes by developers. Okay, this is done with the technology or a tool called Jenkins. Okay, talk about that. I don't want to go talking about this a lot. Okay, so we have practice number 2 is continuous integration. The next practice what is continuous delivery and continuous deployment. So this is how we continually get the code from build. And by the way, all of these practices are going to be connected together, right? So it's a chain reaction. Developers commit a code, there is a trigger that start the testing process, right? Like that. Just integration and continue. We are going to see this, but of course, please note that down. The practice of what? Of continuously maintaining code in a deployable state, right? Regardless of whether or not this one is meant to deploy, the code is always what? In a state that is able to be deployed. So every application you will see today is a code. I hope you know that, right? Yeah. Okay. I don't want to bore you with all of this because I will send for you to read. Okay. Now, the fourth practice is configuration management. I used to explain this in this way, okay? Let's assume that you have 4,000 computers and you want to install WhatsApp on 4,000 computers, right? You have two options. Do it manually, so log into one, install, 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 install. That will take you forever. But with configuration management, we can automate that process using a tool called Ansible. Okay? So we use tool called Ansible to what? To deploy changes to systems. Okay. And this is where cloud computing also comes to the picture. However, we can also automate this even on servers that are not cloud-based. We can also implement config management with on-prem servers. That's the point I'm making. All right. So I want to boil it. Now, the fifth practice is orchestration. This is where we are going to study Kubernetes and containerization. Okay, very, very important. Don't worry. Okay, and then monitoring. Like I mentioned, right, when we deploy applications, there is need for that application to be monitored. What are we monitoring? Of course, what we want to monitor the usage of memory, CPU, disk, I/O, other resources over time, application logs, networking traffic. So this helps us to be proactive. The exact reason why when you walk into the hospital maybe with a heart problem, you have put on a monitor. What are they monitoring? Metrics. What types of metrics or data are they collecting? Maybe your heart pressure, your blood pressure, right? Temperature. That what's called data that will help in making decisions concerning your health. Okay, so again, what? We implement monitoring. So that is the sixth practice. So what does monitoring look like? We want to have some kind of real-time notifications, performance on what the website is beginning to slow down. You want to get notified. Memory is being consumed. You want to get notified. All of this matters a lot, okay? And of course, what the seventh practice is microservices, okay? Very, very important. That's where Docker comes to the picture. And oh yeah, now what? So let's talk about tools. So DevOps is not a what set of tools, but how can we achieve high speed of delivery without maintaining while maintaining stability tools? Okay, these tools are technology. So for build automation, you hear about something like Apache Maven. That's what you are going to install. So when I say, okay, guys, next week we are going to be studying Maven, okay, come back to this PowerPoint presentation and read, okay? Maven, continuous integration is what? That's Jenkins, okay? Jenkins are all softwares. Config management is Ansible that we are going to install. For containerization, we are going to what? We are going to study Docker. That's a big guy there. Oh, by the way, right? So Jenkins has what? Its own industry certification. Ansible what also has certification. Docker also has certifications. Monitoring, we have New Relic, okay? And we have Sensu. We also have Prometheus and Grafana that we use to monitor. Tools for orchestration, we have Docker Swarm and Kubernetes. Very, very, very big. And of course, what you can see here, we have we have the periodic tables of tools of DevOps tools. Very, very useful and important table for you to take note of. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but in summary, right, DevOps is a set of practices, it's a culture that implements a set of practices. And there are about 12 practices that we are going to be studying so far in this program. So it's important that you watch this video, watch it over and over again, but above all, read this PowerPoint presentation. Thank you so much. I don't want to make the video extremely long because I know you are still kind of anxious and I want to keep your confidence level, just good enough. But thank you, and I see you in 3 days' time, okay? On the 7th, we are going to be starting our next match. Okay, welcome to Lion Tech Academy, and it's a pleasure having you here. Have a seat, and let's ride on this journey together. Thank you, and God bless you.